I am Venkata Mohan, Director of Feynman IAS. So we are offering prelims cum mains for IAS exam. So I would like to say how our course is different. See, in most courses, and I'm calling it traditional PCM batch. That is the name I am giving to the PCM batch in most of the institutions. I think what is happening in the batches is that it is a one-year course, and what students end up learning is simply some notes. So many lectures are given and students end up taking notes of them. No time to study and no testing. Teachers give lectures and course is said to be ended when the lecturing is over. So teachers finish the courses and not the students. And another thing is that when they take the students, there is no criteria for admission. So because of which there is no uniformity in the admission, and what happens is that teachers and the institutes want to maximize the number of students. So many students, the teacher. And to retain more number of students, teacher has to ensure that every student learns something. So every student learns something. Okay. But in trying to reach to everybody, he conveys finally very little. There is a huge gap between what is conveyed and the exam. A huge gap. So that is not adequate. Inadequate thing is being given as a way of including as many students as possible. So how do we want to address these issues? Number one, we want to take limited students, and we are conducting some examination, merit based. We don't want to take whoever comes. We want to give admission only when we think our instruction is suitable and we can maintain some standards in the instruction. So this is how we want to handle. But more importantly, I think our view of what we want to help the student in the examination is different. I'll explain here. Traditional view, I take it as like this. They divide the entire examination as this much of knowledge or information. You can call it anyway. This much of knowledge. And they divide this into pieces. And they send the lecturers to cover each piece. Lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, 4. So they think of the entire examination as some knowledge which is divided into certain pieces, and each lecturer covers a part of the totality of knowledge or information that is needed. This, I think, is what I am calling traditional. Whereas I am proposing a different method. In the method that I am proposing, not all information is equal. I take it like this: there are levels. There is basic level. School textbooks cover this, mostly NCERT. And then after that, another level, more IAS specific. Okay. But we are saying all this is one kind of information. Maybe I can call it static, basic, and there are ready sources. Static, basic, and ready sources. NCERT plus some other textbooks. I believe this should be taught by the teachers. It facilitates faster learning. So these basic things should be taught. In every area you can identify some basic book: economy, polity, modern India, static and basic. So that should be taught. But then after that, there is a different kind, that is dynamic, applicative. This is something, a question of how do you enable the student learn this rather than directly teach. In traditional approach, institutes are not making the distinction between these two. They are following the same approach to everything. Whereas I am saying this should be taught clearly, whereas this is an enabling process. And then there is a third level. It is much more personal, unique to the student. And the exam is here. So the information, the examination is not about totality of the information, but it calls for different levels of learning. So at certain level, student can be taught, at another level, enabled, at a much higher level, you should help him to discover himself and face the examination. So coaching should include various levels of preparation. How do we do this? In our part of the education, in our kind of education, it is not that teacher finishes and the student only takes notes. Student should finish. So here, very important role can be played through assessment. In our PCM batch, we have NCERT tests covering 6th to 10th class. Around 30 plus NCERT textbooks students are expected to go through and take the tests. This we call it foundation. So student has this foundation even before attending the classes. So he has some level of preparation. And then during the course, next level of testing. So testing before the course, testing during the course. So testing goes along with the teaching. Testing before and testing during. So that is how student finishes the course, which also means there may be more duration needed for PCM batch. That is why we are planning to take 1.5 years, not 1 year. And we are planning to ask the student only once in a day, either morning or evening. So it means fewer classes or maximum 4 hours per day, and with certain breaks. So we will give enough time for the student to study, enough time to test. So by the time the teacher finishes his course, student also will finish. This is how we want to do. And next, we talked about enabling the student. We discussed there are different levels. It calls for enabling. I think enabling involves 2 dimensions. One is critical thinking. And second is writing ability. Our approach to writing is that writing cannot come simply through writing tests. Writing and studying should go together. Whatever the candidate is studying, he should make a note, he should make a summary in his notebook. So that's how he will develop his own style of writing. And if one is good at writing, huge chunk of preparation can be said to be completed. This is one which we want to help focus. And critical thinking. Critical thinking involves raising certain basic and fundamental questions, fundamental assumptions on which these disciplines are constituted or the texts are written. We make certain proposals, but it does not mean that the student has to accept those proposals. But we expect the student to reflect on them and come to his own conclusions. And he need not have conclusions, his own questions. So we want to develop an approach, writing, thinking, raising questions. In the PCM batch, we give the foundation. It may be prelims come mains, but compared to the examination, it is like a foundation. Because there are many things that the student himself has to do, and there are many things he should do after the course is over. That's what is meant by enabling. So we do this process of critical thinking, writing ability, and so that the student moves out of the course and then finds his own way to clear the exam. Finally, I think it is his own way. Given his unique abilities, unique information systems, he should negotiate his path to success. Okay, we are discussing how do you promote critical thinking in the student. See, I think critical thinking doesn't come in questioning at a micro level. So it's a body of knowledge. You have question here, question there, question there, like this, like this. That is not critical thinking. Critical thinking comes when you question the basis of this knowledge system. The basis. When you understand how knowledge is generated, what assumptions are made, and how valid are these assumptions. That is what is meant by questioning everything. It is not questioning micro level, but question at a level where every micro detail is up for scrutiny. I am taking some examples. Take NCERT books. There is no doubt that these books are extremely important. There is no doubt that we give thorough grounding, we conduct tests. We want the students to be thorough. Okay. But where do we think that the students should go beyond this? We believe, or definitely I believe, that these books are generated with a bias. You know very clearly that the geography textbooks don't even tell you the borders of India. They are false. Huge part of what is there in Pakistan, huge part of what is there in China. So that is an obvious example. But they give so many maps. So like the Indian map that they show is not true of India. There are many things that they tell which are not true. For example, they talk about history books. History books are written with a bias that the partition should not have happened. They say that somebody believed in two-nation theory, whereas India believed in secularism. A lot of biased writing to promote what they think is nationalism. In the end, history is taught in a way that the student cannot feel friendly towards a neighbor, that's Pakistan. So it is that history that they teach. Whereas I would say whether Jinnah's stand that they should be partition or not should be examined now in the light of such a committee report. So history should constantly be rewritten in the light of contemporary developments. Whether India is truly secular, whether India turned out to be secular only in letter but Hindu in spirit. You have to examine and then rewrite history. But have we done that? No. Are the students taught that Jinnah is interested in secularism as much as Nehru is. It is just that Jinnah didn't think that India was going to be secular. This is not taught at all. That's about geography, that's about history. And if you take a book on society, strangely, they don't tell you the secret of Indian society. How Indian society is formed, the role of Aryans, how the elaborate caste structure is created by the outsiders to facilitate a domination. Same thing about economy. Economy teaching is hopelessly outdated. The recent reports say that around 60+% of GDP is going to 1% of the population. If that is the case, why are we obsessed about GDP? And if we are not obsessed about GDP, how should economics be rewritten? We accurately measure GDP and then we simply say the growth should be inclusive without devising measures of inclusiveness. So what is the point in measuring all these things? So we question these things like GDP. Like history. Okay. Why? I would say even preamble itself. Probably we need to examine the foundations of Indian political system in the light of what is happening to in Jammu and Kashmir, what is happening in Manipur. So, taking certain critical questions and reading the subject will make a student discontented and positively with the systems of knowledge generation. So that automatically leads to more intense observation of the world around, and more importantly, ability to discriminate what is worth reading and what is not worth reading. Okay, this foundational questioning will give you a way to pass through a jungle of information system, because you have a way of negotiating. Then you may ask UPSC. I can see that you will ask, what about UPSC? What I would like to tell you in this context is that UPSC is not NCERT. UPSC is not any TV channel or not a textbook. Okay. So these things help you. They help. But UPSC on the whole expects you to read and at the same time be free from what you read. An independent evaluation and judgment is appreciated. But I am not saying that those with independent mind will in the end only such people will succeed or in the end are bound to succeed. We are only making a proposal. In independent thinking helps. UPSC appreciates. But here, independent thinking plus tons of comprehensive information, there are so many variables. So that's how I see the examination system to be. So what we do as a part of PCM is that we initiate the process, we give certain exposure. For example, apart from tests and lectures, we have guest lectures, videos, discussions, presentations. We add guest lectures, videos, discussions, presentations, group discussions. So lecturing, testing, writing practice, and enabling. And our foundational questions can be on nationalism, economics, history, communalism, are backed by guest lectures. We plan to include guest lectures from activists, professors, and others, so that students will be exposed to certain unconventional thought process. Okay. So we believe that leads to true education. Where a person critically thinks, assesses the situation, and finds out for himself what he wants to do with his life, rather than catering to the simply the examination needs. It is not like if an institute says that we will teach you things and they will help you only in the examination. I would call it a mercenary approach. We believe in changing the person. We believe in at least making the person to think about certain important issues. So we think that is true education. Okay. So you may ask why the merit would be a criteria. And here we have certain convictions. For example, I don't think, it may look very odd that I don't agree with the claim that certain institutes make, that what all you need is only motivation and you will make it. I don't think so. So I think certain background, certain academic orientation is needed to clear the examination. So we want to take only those students who are not only likely to clear, who have the competence, and more importantly, who also approve of our methods and who feel comfortable about our methods. Okay, so this is what we are interested in, and if the students are interested, they can apply. And then as educators, if you want to be associated, then also you are welcome. Thank you.